Yeah, so hi all, very good evening to all of you. Uh, Welcome back to the 10th week of TA live sessions for Artificial Intelligence, Knowledge Representation and Reasoning. Uh, so first of all, am I audible and is my screen visible? Can you hear me? Okay, thanks for the confirmation, Naresh. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started with this week. So this week we'll be discussing content from week 11 videos. Um, Basically, we'll be covering a bit of. So last week we saw some knowledge structures called scripts, right? This week we'll be seeing some questions related to something called frames, and I'm assuming you might have gone through the lecture material. So without further delay, let's get started. Okay, so again, like last week, a number of questions today as well will be uh, just recall based from the lectures, but there will be some interesting questions, application based questions as well towards the end. So the initial few will be recall based. So this is one of them, the first question in front of you. So this question asks you, so Pam, as you might remember from the lectures, may try to explain an action mentioned in the story, and which of the following options do you think would be relevant for this question over here? So I'll let you think for a while I'll create a poll. Hi Vipul, I was on mute until then. Now I should be audible. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thanks Shiva. Thanks Harkuti for the confirmation. Alright, so I see we have a couple of votes coming in. So there are two votes for options A and C, and then there's one vote for options B and D. Right, so let's go through the options one by one. So the first option says, um, Pam may try to explain an action mentioned in the story by hypothesizing that it is a part of a plan that the actor is assumed to have. Now this seems sensible, right? Because this is something that Pam is expected to do, right? It will hypothesize that that action might be part of a plan that the actor has, and then it'll act accordingly, right? Let's go to the other options and then see. Option B says that by hypothesizing that the actor is acting as he does every day. Now, this doesn't seem to make sense, right? Uh, what do we mean by actor is acting as he does every day, right? This is not relevant to the question over here, also doesn't make sense as per the uh, logic. So the third option is by matching it with an expectation generated by a known plan of the actor. This also seems to make sense. What about the last option? By reasoning about the preconditions and effects of the action. Now, this is not exactly what PAM is trying to do or expected to do when it tries to explain an action, right? So, the correct options in this case, as some of you have voted for, are A and C, right? As a refresher, we can just revisit PAM, and here if you see, so it has three components: the predictive mode, a known goal predicts certain plans and actions. Second is bottom-up mode, recognizing the plans a given action is a part of, and three is incorporation, which is not required at the moment for this question. But based on this alone, we can tell that the correct options would be that PAM may try to explain an action by hypothesizing that it is part of the plan that the actor has, or by matching it with an expectation generated by a known plan. Alright, so this was pretty straightforward. Shall we move on to the next question? Alright, thanks, Arpadi. Now, the second question asks you about PAM again, but here instead of trying to explain a particular action, as we saw in the previous question, here we are asked PAM may explain a plan that an actor is supposed to be using by which of the following options. Okay, so once again, I'll let you think for a while I create a poll for this question as well. So I see that there is a vote coming in already for all options correct. So what do the others think? Are all of these correct? As a reminder, let's revisit a few slides from the lecture. So what it does is, in step 1, is even part of a known plan? If yes, then the plan is an explanation. If no, can a plan or plans be inferred from the event? If no, then it returns a failure. If yes, can one of these plans be a plan for a known goal? Okay. If yes, then the plan is an explanation. If no, then step 4 is, can a goal or goals be inferred from one of those plans? and then it'll start. Okay, let's visit the other steps as well. After that, I'll explain. So we were here at step 4. Can a goal be inferred from this one? If no, then we return a failure. If it can one of these goals be instrumental to a known plan? Then if yes, then the plan goal sequence is the explanation. If no, then can one of these goals have arisen because of a known theme? So I talked about themes in the lectures, right? Like a person being hungry or a person liking a bicycle, something like that. If yes, then again the plan goal theme sequence is the explanation. If no, then can a plan be inferred in which one of these goals is instrumental? If yes, then we go back to step 3. If no, then we return a failure finally. So if you remember, uh, if you look carefully, uh, is there any mention of breaking down a plan into actions in any of these steps? So keeping that in mind, revisit the options once more and think whether any of these could be wrong, any of these options. I'll give you a hint. One of the options is wrong. All right, so we have a couple of more votes coming in. So once again, let's go through all the options one by one. So the first option is knowledge of which goals are achieved by the plan, right? So this seems to make sense. This seems like something PAM would do while trying to explain a plan, right? It has some information about which of the goals that are achieved by the plan until that point. Okay, so this seems to make sense. Let's consider option B then. Uh, by recognizing that the plan can be used to resolve a goal conflict, this also seems to make sense. Let's visit option D first. Okay. The option D says by recognizing that the plan is used to resolve goal competition with another actor. This also seems to make sense. But option C, as we just saw, doesn't really seem to fit into how Pam may try to explain a plan, right? Which I think some of you did vote for also, and also shared in the your responses in the chat box. Thanks, Shiva, for that. So yeah, you are correct. The correct options would be A, B, and D. So these are three of the ways by which Pam may try to explain a plan that an actor is supposed to be using. Okay. This is also, well, not an exact recall question, but kind of based on the procedures that have been mentioned in the lecture slides. So once again, suggestion would be to just go through the lecture slides carefully, and such questions you'll be able to answer pretty easily. Okay, should we move on to the next question then? All right, thanks, Arkadeep. Okay, so the third question asks, the filler of a slot in an individual frame may be which of the following? Okay, so your options are it can be a value, it can be a pointer to another individual frame, a pointer to a generic frame, or it can be an attached procedure, right? So once again, I'll let you think a bit about the options while I create a poll. Alright, so we have a couple of votes coming in. We have one vote for options A, B, and C, and one vote for all options A, B, C, and D. So I just gave you a slight hint uh, from the slide in the lecture, which says that, which describes basically the different characteristics of a frame. And one of the points, the third point here, mentions that a frame is different from a script in that it is a structured representation with a collection of attribute value or slot filler pairs, right? So slot filler is analogous to attribute value, something like this. Okay, so this slide kind of does give away the answer. So we see that there is a common agreement that A, B, C are the correct options, but the last option, which was it can have procedures attached, there seems to be some confusion about option D, but does this slide help in resolving that? All right. Thanks for the thumbs up, Shiva and
The
Somil.
option B is also correct, is it?
Yes, option B is also correct. Let us revisit the options.
D for Delhi.
D, yes, option D is also correct because we just saw, right? Slots can have a procedure attached.
So all the four are correct, is it?
Yeah, all four options in this case are correct. So the filler of a slot may be a value, it may be a pointer to another frame, maybe a pointer to a generic frame, or it can be an attached procedure.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Um, Again, a pretty straightforward question. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Mohan and Somil. Okay, let's move on to question 4 then. So now we move on from PAM and frames to inheritance hierarchy. So question 4 asks us an inheritance hierarchy with the conclusion node C with respect to a node A can have the conclusion A is a C, can have the conclusion A is not C, and so on and so forth, right? So you have 5 options over here, and which of these do you think would be correct given that, given this statement, an inheritance hierarchy with a conclusion node C with respect to node A? Okay, so I'll once again let you think a while, uh, and I'll create a poll. Alright, so we have a couple of votes coming in, and both of these votes are for options A, B, and C. And okay, we have another vote for options A, B, and C, and all of you are correct. Options A, B, and C would be the correct options for this question. So if we have an inheritance hierarchy with a conclusion node C and with respect to a node A, so it's something like A is at the lower end and C is somewhere at the top. And we can have a conclusion A is a C, right? We can have that. We can also have a conclusion A is not a C. And if both these are true, as we just saw, we can directly eliminate option D, which is just uh, the opposite of what options A and B say, right? So option D is wrong. And then whether it option, let's consider option C. So it can have both conclusions A is a C and A is a not C, which we just discussed. So C is also correct. And then option E says cannot have an admissible positive path and an admissible negative path from A to C, which is wrong because it can have an admissible positive path and an admissible negative path. Right. So options A, B, C are the correct options. By the way, so is there any confusion about the understanding of what is an admissible path or what is a positive path or what is a negative path? Have you gone through the lecture notes?
So is it fine if we can explain that again?
Sure,
Like
let's
what's the positive parts?
sure. Let's go through the lecture notes quickly. So if you notice in the lecture materials provided in the Swayam portal, there's this lecture notes provided by, especially on inheritance network, provided by Bhaskaran sir, and this is very helpful and very precise as well. So in an inheritance network, a positive edge is something like an edge from A to X. Okay, it is also represented as A dot X. A negative edge is A arrow X with this particular negation kind of or strike off kind of thing, and it is represented as A dot negation X. Right? And a positive path will be an arrow or a sequence of these arrows. Okay, and these will be represented as per A dot X or A B C A dot B dot C dot X. One or more positive edges constitutes a positive path. Similarly, for a negative path, if it's ending on a negative edge, it makes a negative path. It can have 0 or more positive edges, but it has to have one negative edge. So 0 or more positive edges followed by one negative edge makes it a negative path. Okay, and again it is represented using the dot structure as follows: A dot B dot C dot not X. So based on these, we saw that a path can be positive or negative.
ABC dot X, the negative can be anywhere or only at the end.
If it's at the end, then it's a negative edge.
Anywhere otherwise is not negative edge. Huh?
Um, so a negative edge has to have a strike at the end, right?
Okay.
And so if you have something like A, B, C, then not X, then something else. So that would basically mean that A is a B, A is a C, because B is a C, and then A is not an X, right? And
Yeah.
if X is again something, then that it would directly imply that A is also not something else, right? So suppose we had another edge X to Y over here, which means X is a Y, right? But we know that A, B, and C are not X, and hence A, B, or C are also not Y, right? So it will be a negative path still. Uh, does that help? Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we saw that a path is either positive or negative. Now, when does a node preempt an edge? So a node will preempt an edge when one of these conditions happen. So in a path A to Y to, so we have a path like A, then we have some edges, then we have Y, and then we have some edges, and then we have V to X. Okay. So node Y preempts edge, this V to X edge, with respect to A if a negative edge Y to X exists, right? or in a path A to Y, and then we have an edge V to not X, right? Node Y will preempt this particular orange edge over here, V to not X, when there is another positive edge from Y to X. So this is how a node can preempt an edge. So this is about preemption. And then a path is admissible with respect to a certain node A if every edge in the path is admissible with respect to A. Okay. Now we have to know when is an edge admissible, right? So we know a path is admissible if every edge is admissible, but we need to know when is an edge admissible. So an edge is admissible when, so let's consider this V to X first. This is admissible with respect to A if the subpath A to subpath from A to V basically. So these U1, UN are some intermediate nodes. If this subpath is positive and the subpath is admissible with respect to A, and no subpath edges are redundant with respect to A, and no node preempts the edge V2X with respect to A. So there are a lot of things, but then if you look at it one by one, it's pretty simple, right? So this is for the positive edge. The same applies for a negative edge as well. Okay. So the only thing we need to know now is this part, when some edges can be redundant. Right? So this is the only thing we are left with. So when is a positive edge redundant? A positive edge is redundant if, so there are two kinds of definitions. I kind of prefer the bottom one. It's a bit more intuitive to understand for me, but you can stick with any definition that you might find comfortable. So the edge B to W, so this B to W is redundant if the path B to T1, so this T1 to TM are intermediate nodes between B to W. These are all positive and this path is admissible with respect to A, and the negative admissible paths, like the gray ones, like some from A to not C1, then not from A to not CM to TM, right? Not CM, CM to not TM. These kind of paths do not exist. Then it is all this. Then this BWH is redundant. Okay, so I just quickly went through the lecture notes. Any confusion in any of these definitions? Should we go over it once more?
It's okay while reading, but we couldn't really carry over in the memory.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions, the following questions that we will discuss after this, that will kind of need you to find out the admissible edges and paths. Okay, so that might help you slightly with an application.
Okay.
Okay, so let's discuss those questions, and after that, let's see if we need to go into further details.
Hmm.
All right. Okay, so question 4 is done. A, B, C are the correct options. And now let's move to question 5, which is kind of an application of this inheritance hierarchy concept that we just discussed. So this is one inheritance hierarchy given to you on this right side. Okay, so you have a node A, then you have a node B, C, D, E, G. You have some positive paths, some positive edges, you have some negative edges. The question asks, identify the edges that are admissible with respect to node A in the above graph. Okay, and you have to select among these particular options that are given to you. 8 options that are given to you. For example, this A dot B basically talks about this path or this edge from A node to B node, just this single edge, whether it is admissible or not. Similarly, A to G, whether it is admissible or not. Okay, so based on the definition of admissible edges that we just saw, um, try to apply it to these options. I'll give you some time to think for a while. You can parallelly open the lecture notes and also revisit the definition of admissible edges, and then we shall discuss it. Okay.
Sir, all the options are correct except of H. Am I right?
Okay. Thanks, Shiva, for the answer. So Shiva says that all options A to G are correct except H. What do the others think? Do you agree with Shiva?
Sir, yeah, I have got my notes clear.
No, no. You might be right. I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Okay, so you want me to explain how I arrived at the answer, or
Yeah, sure. You can, if you want, you can share your thought process of why you think this
yes? So they
question is
are
correct.
asking which are the things which are admissible with respect to node A. So in this case, if we check the options given above, everything are right. Like G to C is a negative node, it's indicated in the graph. So same applies for B to E as well. And other all the nodes which paths given are positive nodes. So everything is a correct answer right over here. If they have given something like B dot not of C, then it is wrong. So in this case, everything is the right answer.
Except H.
Yeah, except H.
Yeah, yeah. That's a perfect explanation, Shiva. Thanks for sharing the answer and your explanation as well. That's right. So all of these options from A to G are actually correct. All of these are admissible edges, right? So if we quickly just revisit the definition of admissible edges that we just saw. So any edge is admissible with respect to A, the bottom one, if the subpath is positive and the subpath is admissible, right? And no subpath edges are redundant. So here, since we do not have a long path in this particular graph, we have just single edges itself, right? So A to B, it's true, right? It's there and it's admissible, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Mohan, maybe, yeah, thanks for muting. Yeah. So also A to G is also admissible because it's a positive edge. Then B to C is again a positive edge. Then B to not E is a negative edge, but it is admissible, right? C to D is again a positive edge and admissible. D to E again positive edge and admissible, and G to not C again a negative edge and admissible, right? So all of these are correct. All right. Any doubts about this question, or should we move to the next one? Okay. So I'm assuming there are no doubts. If there are, do let me know. So the next question is also based on the same inheritance hierarchy that we saw, but here we are asked to identify the redundant edges in the above graph, and the options are all the same as the previous question. So which of these do you think among the options given to you will be redundant edges? I'll once again let you think for a while.
Sir, I guess there is no redundant edges in this graph which is given to us.
Uh, yeah, Shiva, thanks once again for sharing your answer. And yeah, you are absolutely correct. There are no redundant edges because we just discussed in the last question, which have the same options, that all of these edges that we saw were all admissible, right? So it makes sense that none of them would be redundant. But even if we look at the definition of the redundant edges, so I agree with what Mohan was saying, that the definition seems, while reading, a bit uh, okay, but we can have a quick, small and very simple example to understand what redundant edges are. So let's say that I said something like, so A here, let's say, is something like John. Okay, so John is a person. So we can say John is a man, and then we say man is a Homo sapien. Then we can say that a Homo sapien is a mammal. And then we can say mammal is a living organism, let's say. I'm not writing the whole thing. So uh, having this structure, right? If we have an edge like Homo sapien to living organism, this edge, let me draw it with a different color actually. This edge, this red edge is kind of redundant, right? Because since we already have this structure, Homo sapien to mammal to living organism. So Homo sapien is a mammal, which is a living organism. This having this red edge is kind of extra. It doesn't make sense. Now, if we had something like John is not a mammal, so there might be some notes in between as well, which I'm not trying. Then this wouldn't have been redundant, or something like from this to this. Right? But since we do not have any such things, having this red edge from Homo sapiens to living organisms is kind of redundant. So I hope that kind of helped with the understanding of what redundancy is. And yeah, the correct answer is none of the above are redundant edges. Alright, so any confusion about this question? Should we move on to the next one? Alright, so I'll assume that there are no doubts. Um, if there are, do let me know. By the way, I am still audible, right? Because I think I had an interruption in my network right now. Okay, thanks for the thumbs up, Argoti. Alright, then let's move on to the next question, which is again based on the same inheritance hierarchy. But now, instead of having simple one edge paths or simple edges, we have paths given to us, and we have to identify which of the paths are admissible. Okay, so I'll let you think for a while. I'll create a poll for this question. Okay. Okay, so we have one vote for options B, C, D, and F, and one vote for options A, B, C, and D. Right? So thanks for your answer, Shiva and Kumar. Um, okay, so why don't we revisit the definition of admissible paths, right? Just give me a moment. Okay, so a path is admissible with respect to A if every edge in the path, okay, I've shared the corresponding notes. A path is admissible with respect to A if every edge in the path is admissible with respect to A. Okay, and when is an edge admissible? It's admissible if, so there are a number of conditions. Okay, so an edge is admissible if the subpath is positive. This is one condition, and the subpath is admissible with respect to A. Second condition, and no subpath edges are redundant. Third condition, no node in the subpath preempts the edge, the last edge. Okay, so these four conditions are there. Now revisit the options that we have and see if any of these four conditions are violated in any of the options. Okay, so I'll give you one small hint. Um, Consider the first option A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, now this path is there in the inheritance hierarchy graph over here. Right? There is a path from, there's an edge from A to B, then B to C, then C to D, and D to E. But this is not an admissible path. I'm giving you that. Why do you think it's not an admissible path? Okay, so one of the conditions for an admissible path is not satisfied over here. Similarly, for option F also, A to G to not C to D to E. This is also not an admissible path. One of the conditions, one or more conditions might not be satisfied over here. So think about it, and then we can discuss the options one by one. Alright, so we have another vote for all options. Um, so as I said before, options A and F, like I pointed out earlier, are not admissible, right? So among the few options we received B, C, D, F and A, B, C, D. So B, C, D options are common among both these, right? And I'll give you that B, C, D are admissible paths, right? So that you are correct. Options B says A to D to E, right? So there is an edge from A to D and there is an edge from D to E, right? And this is admissible because all the conditions are satisfied. The subpath, all of these are positive. There is no redundancy and everything, right? So A to D to E is admissible. Similarly, A to B to not E, A to B to not E is also admissible. Then A to G to not C, that is also admissible because all the conditions are satisfied. Now, for option A, B, C, D, E, right? This simple straight line A, B, C, D, E. While this path is there in the graph, if you notice, this B node is preempting, right? The last edge D to E. So if we revisit the definition of preemption, so in a path A to X with Y and V in the middle, node Y preempts edge V to X if there's a negative edge from Y to X, right? So if we have the last edge is positive and then some intermediate node Y is having a negative edge to X, then this Y is preempting the last node, the last edge V to X. Similarly, if we had a negative edge from V to X and this some intermediate node Y has a positive edge from Y to X, then this particular node Y is preempting V to X, right? Similarly, over here we have a negative edge from B to E, which is preempting this positive edge from D to E, right? And then one of the conditions for admissibility stated that no node in the subpath preempts the last edge, right? So this means that the path A, B, C, D is not admissible. Do you agree with me? Any doubts about the explanation for option A?
So can you explain it once again?
Sure. So let us draw it. Okay, maybe that will help. So let's say we have some node A. Okay, then you have some intermediate node, some intermediate node. Then you have something called Y. Okay, then again you have something, and finally you have this last edge from V to X. Okay, so what this basically says that A is, so let's name these. Okay, so let's say this is X. Now, so we already have X. Let's name this P, Q, and R, or maybe S. That's just confusing with this V that we have over here. So what this basically says that A is a P, P is a Q, Q is a Y, Y is an S is a V, and V is an X. Now if we have an edge, a negative edge from Y to X, this says that Y is not an X, right? So this is set to preempt this particular edge V to X, right? So Y preempts V to X. Similarly, if this had been a negative edge and this had been a positive edge, then also y preempts this negative v to x negative edge. So this is what preemption is. Now if we go to the diagram that we have at hand, we have A, B, C, D and E, and then we have a negative edge from B to E, and we also have a negative edge from A to, we have a positive edge from A to G, and then a negative edge from G to C. So let's forget about this A to G and G to not C, this particular part at the moment. Let's just look at this A, B, C, D, E, and this B to E with a negative edge. Now, does this satisfy the preemption condition? Like, is B preempting the edge from D to E? Okay, thanks Arkadeep for the thumbs up. So basically, if we have to draw an analogy, so here A is A in our example, B is the Y node in our example, D is the V node, and E is the X node, as per this example that we just saw. So here Y preempts V to X, right? Here B preempts D to E. Sorry for the horrible handwriting, but I hope you get it. Right? So this is what we have, but one of the conditions for admissible paths or admissible edges is that no node in the subpath A2 up till the before the V node, right? So in our case, that would be no node amongst A, B, and C, right? So amongst A, B, and C, none of these nodes should be preempting D to E. But we see that one of them, B, is preempting D to E. Hence, the condition for admissibility is not satisfied. This condition, no node preempts, this is not satisfied. Hence, A, B, C, D, E is not admissible. Okay, so does that help, Shiva?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so we saw A is not admissible, B is admissible, C is admissible, D is admissible. What about options E and F? Right. So if you see a commonality between options D, E, and F is that this A, G, not C, this part is common. Right. So A to G to not C, this part is there, and we know that A to G to not C is admissible. But adding another edge to the path beyond not C, A to G to not C to D, or A to G to not C to D to E, which condition does this violate among the four conditions for admissibility that we had? The subpath has to be positive, right? This is one of the conditions, which basically means that the path from A to U1 up from to UN to V, this should all be consisting of positive edges only. But here what do we have? The path that we're talking about over here is A to G, G to not C, and then from here to here and here to here. So this subpath basically consists of A, G, C, D. So none of these edges between A to G, G to C, or C to D should be negative. But we see that one of them over here is a negative edge. Hence this subpath is not positive. And this first condition is thus violated. Right? That is why E is also not admissible, and by the same reason F is also not admissible. So does that clarify? Any doubts about the answers?
Sir, in the notes, what does the third one say about the conditions for admissible?
Okay. So the third one is no subpath edges are redundant. So basically none of the edges in this subpath from A to U1 to UN to V, none of these edges between these in this subpath basically should be redundant. So we just saw that something,
Okay.
an edge like this would have been redundant, right? Does that help, Orgodeep? All right. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right. So yeah, the correct options are B, C, and D are the admissible paths. Okay. Shall we move on to the next question then? All right. I'm guessing there's no doubt. If there is, uh, do feel free to stop me. In the meantime, let's move on to the eighth question, which again is based on the same inheritance hierarchy. But this one asks us, which of the following beliefs holds for this node A? Okay. So once again, I'll let you think about it. I'm not creating a poll, but I'll let you think about it for a while, and then we can discuss. All right. Any thoughts about the question? By the way, is the question clear? Any doubts about the question itself?
E is the correct option.
Sorry, Mohan, can you come again?
E is the correct option.
E is one of the correct options. You're right. There are more. Which of the others do you think can be correct?
No, A to E cannot be correct all because there is a negative edge to E.
No, no. So basically the question asks which of the following beliefs is true or holds, right? And beliefs basically means, so when we say A arrow E, which basically means that is A is a E, is can this be true as per the given graph? And there is an edge, there is a path from A to E, right? A, B, C, D,
Yes,
E,
but there is a preemptive negative path is there. No?
right? And they both can be true, right?
Now you should just a little while ago you said there should not be any preemptive negative path. No?
No, no, no. That was regarding admissibility. Here it is about belief. So if you remember one of the questions we discussed early on, in an inheritance hierarchy with the conclusion node C with respect to node A, we said that it can have both the conclusions A is a C and A is not a C, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So now which of the options do you think would be correct?
Then A is also right.
Right?
A to E is also right. A.
Yeah,
B to not E is also right. A to not E is also right.
that's right.
A to C is also right. But there is A to C and A to not C is also A to.
That's right.
That's
So
confusing.
yeah, a bit, but if you apply the you are going in the correct direction. So I'll give you a hint that only one of these is incorrect. Look among the last options, maybe.
A not D is correct. Is not correct.
Yeah, that's right. We have no path from A to not D, right? We have a path from A to D, but no path from A to not D,
Hmm.
right? So F cannot be a correct belief. All other beliefs are correct. Right?
Yeah.
So just as an explanation, uh, maybe I'll remove all these things. Okay. So what are the options that we have? A is a E. Okay. We have that. A is a E. By following this, this, and this. So A is a E is true. Next we have A is not E. This and this. This is true. This is also true.
Sir, are you sharing some other screen?
Sorry about that. Yeah. I'll go through the options once more. So basically what I was saying is this thing A to E through this path, this belief holds, we can say, right? Now A to not E. Let me use a different color for this. This and then this. Through this path, A to not E is also true. What are the other options? A to C. Okay. again this path A to C is true, and then A to not C is also true because of this path, right? And another option we have is A to D, which is also true because of this path. As for the last option, A to not D, there is no such path, right? So that belief can't be true. All right. So does that help? Any doubts about this question?
No, sir.
All right. That's great. So that brings us to an end of the questions for this week. We had very few questions. Not very few, but still fewer than what we usually have, because unfortunately a number of questions from the previous year have been repeated in this assignment, so I cannot discuss them. But yeah, so that brings us to an end of the questions for week 11 content. Is there something specific that you would like us to have a discussion about? Uh, we still have some time. Or do you want me to go over any of the questions from that we discussed in this meeting itself, but you could not be present at the initial time? Or if you want to leave, you are free to leave as well. I'll stick around for some time. If you have any doubts, we can have a discussion.
Sir, in question number 7, you have shown A, B, C, D, E path is not admissible.
Yeah, that's true.
Then how is it in question number 8? We can say A to E is correct.
See, this question is about admissibility, right? And
Okay.
admissibility has a certain set of conditions that it needs to satisfy. We say that a path is admissible if every edge in the path is admissible.
Okay.
And when is an edge admissible? An edge is admissible when there are a number of conditions that need to be satisfied. First, so let's consider this particular path itself. Okay, A to U1, some intermediate nodes, then UN, then V, then X. Okay, this is a path. So this edge V to X is admissible with respect to A if the subpath A to U1 to UN to V, right? This part, just A to U1 to UN to V, this subpath is positive, which basically means that all of the edges have to be positive edges.
Okay.
Second condition is the subpath is admissible, right? So this is a recursive definition of admissibility. So the subpath has to be admissible. No subpath edges are redundant, right? None of these edges
Okay.
in the subpath should be redundant. We saw what redundancy is in the later slide.
Okay.
And then the last condition is no node in this subpath A to U up to UN preempts this last edge. But if you go over here, this node B is preempting the edge from D to E.
What does the word preempt means? Deletes?
No, preempts is
Removes?
basically it's in a way contradicting, you could say. I'm not sure whether that's a exactly correct word, but so if you see into the definition of preemption, so basically if you have a path like A, then there's some intermediate node Y, then you have V to X. Okay, if there is, so V to X is a positive edge. If you have another edge from some intermediate node Y that is a negative edge up to X, then this is said to preempt the edge V to X. Similarly, if this V to X had been a negative edge and then there is a
Are you
positive
sharing
edge,
some other screen, sir?
oh, sorry about that. Okay, this is a bit confusing when I have to switch tabs, but sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, what I was saying is that so you have this path from A to some intermediate node Y, then V to X. Okay, and this node Y will be preempting this edge V to X if there is a corresponding opposite edge from this intermediate node to X. So here V to X was a positive edge. If you have a negative edge from an intermediate node to X, then that node is preempting this edge V to X. Similarly, here this edge from V to X was a negative edge, and if you have a positive edge, this blue edge from some intermediate node Y to X, then this node Y is preempting this last edge V to X. Uh, this is exactly what is happening over here. So you have this last edge D to E. D to E is the positive edge, and you have one edge in the subpath ABC. This B is an intermediate node which is having a negative edge to E. So this node B is preempting the edge D to E. Hence, the condition of admissibility, one of the conditions is not satisfied, this last condition, right? And remember, all these conditions are connected by AND. So even if one of these conditions is not satisfied, we cannot say that the path is admissible. But what the next question asked us was, which of the following beliefs hold, not admissibility. And one of the questions that we discussed earlier, in an inheritance hierarchy with a conclusion node C, which basically means a node at the top, with respect to a node A, which means A is at the bottom, which of these options can be possible? And we saw that both the conclusions A is a C and A is not a C are allowed in the inheritance hierarchy. So if you go to the last question, here A to E is possible following this edge path from A to B to C to D to E, which basically means A is a B, B is a C, C is a D, D is a E, right? Which basically means that A is also a E. And we also have this A to not E, which means A is a B, B is not E, which means A is also not E. Both of these beliefs can be possible. That's why both options A and B are correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so by the way, we are almost towards the end of the course. So we have, I think week 12 content is already out, if I'm not wrong.
It has been out.
Yes, sir. Week 12 content and quiz are out.
Okay, yeah. And week 12 will be the last week of the course, basically, in the sense that there will be no more content after this. We still have 2 more live sessions to go. So in the next week, we'll be discussing some questions from week 12. And then I'm still trying to get a hold of the question paper from the previous year. And if I can do that, then maybe in the last live session, we can have a discussion on that. But what I was trying to ask is, how are you finding the course now that we are almost at the end? And how do you do you have any suggestions for the live sessions particularly, or the course in general? You can share those with me, or even post in the discussion forum if you want to.
Live sessions preferably working out the past question papers and potential error traps, whatever it is.
Okay,
That will be very helpful for us because the concepts are sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's confusing. So no problem.
right.
So
Yeah,
we got to really clean out that one.
that I agree. Yeah, we'll try to incorporate it from the next
Yeah,
time
it's
onwards.
better flip flop between the course content and the question papers, and connect that question to the portion of the course content. Then it will be very helpful for us. And when we are reading, also we can
Right.
connect. That's what is more important for us.
So what could be done is maybe if we have, let's say we are discussing some question in the live session from a particular subtopic from a week, let's say. You're saying that it will be helpful if we point out which portion is it referring to? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what exactly I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, I see that could be done. Thanks for the suggestion, Mohan.
Okay.
Okay. And are all of you registering for the exam? Are all of you appearing for the final exams?
I think mostly all will appear. I think. So why anybody will not appear?
Okay. Yeah. So all of you who are appearing, or even of those who are not appearing, then all the best to all of you. I
Thank you
hope,
very much.
yeah, I hope you all do well. All right. So yeah, I'll still stick around for a while. Um, if you have anything specific, we can discuss it. Otherwise, uh, we can meet next week as well.
Sir, you put a lot of efforts, especially Bhaskaran sir, in answering the emails. If you have seen yesterday's reply to my query, I think he should have taken at least 2 hours of his time to make that a reply. I wish such emails should be made available for the upcoming when in future for the students who will be registering in future for the course, even if the questions do not appear in the assignment.
I agree that Bhaskaran sir is really, he really puts a lot of effort into addressing all the queries that are raised. And yeah, it's a good suggestion. Maybe this can also be something that could be incorporated into from the next time onwards, basically. Is that if something specific, some very interesting queries are raised in the discussion forum, maybe that can be posed as a question in the live session itself from the next time onwards. I'm not sure if I will be the one taking the live session the next time this course is offered, but yeah, that is a good suggestion that I can pass along to the course team.
I think the challenge is because of the Google Forms. Unless and they don't allow the next set of students to access this set of Google content, Google Forum content.
Yeah,
I think NPTEL has to take it out at their level to see how. If you see Coursera courses, so if a student writes some comment, that comment will be seen for all the students who comes at a later stage. I wish NPTEL courses also should be in that light.
yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, the amount of effort you guys are putting is lost for only this much.
Yeah, maybe what could be done is the access to the Google Groups could be restricted to view only for public, and then people who
Yeah.
are actually enrolling in the course can have edit access to the group, or they can post messages as well. That is something I think I agree could be done, should be done.
Anyhow, you are coming up with a different, most of the time, different set of questions, and those are very interesting. And if people have
Oh,
that kind of access,
yeah. By the way, I'm sorry for interrupting you. So most of these questions are actually framed by Bhaskaran sir itself. So I would like to give credit
oh,
to him for that. So these are
okay,
basically questions from the previous year's assignments, right? And that was also framed by Bhaskaran sir and the course team. So yeah, all
okay,
credit to him.
yeah, we are very. I feel like I'm very lucky to come in contact with him. I wish, as you promised some time back, he will come for one session so that we can see his face.
I will try. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm yet to write that mail to both Deepak sir and Bhaskaran sir. Thanks for reminding. I'll write the mail today.
No, before you request them, I think you have to put in a Google form asking for students to ask any specific queries, so that if you get some list of 10 to 20 queries, then Deepak Kimani sir can come and answer them. Otherwise, if you get only two queries, I don't think uh, Deepak sir's time is valuable for just two queries.
That is true.
Yeah, he
But
can review them set of questions and he can think which questions he want to answer.
let's see how it goes. Okay. I'll first have to ask if they're free on that day itself, first of all.
Okay, sure,
Yeah,
no problem.
otherwise, I'll see what I can do.
I wish this question paper will not, the final exam paper will not have any essay type questions. I just received an email regarding exam format.
Okay.
It may,
So as per my knowledge, I don't think there should be essay type questions, but then again, it's better to get it confirmed from uh, the course team itself because I'm in no way related to the question paper formation or anything like that. So those logistics are better answered by the NPTEL team itself. All right. I'll still be here for around 10-15 minutes. Um, let me know if there's anything specific that you would like to discuss. Thanks, Shubham. Thanks for attending the session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thanks, Mohan. Thanks, Shiva. Thanks, Orkudeep. Thank you all for attending the session.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
sir, I'm very sorry, my network got disconnected and I lost the connection. Thanks a lot for joining the session and teaching.
Oh, no issues, Mr. Kamlaka. Thanks a lot for attending and yeah, and asking all the questions. So even in the last course, you were there. I remember in the SMPS
Yes,
course,
sir.
and you and a few of the other students who were also there in the course always used to ask very interesting questions. So thanks for your interest in the course.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. We'll meet you next week then.
Sure. We'll meet next week.
Bye, sir.